welcome to this video. I do lots of these videos on the whim, but I have to do it whilst it's in my head. So this video is now a life coaching video, and it's about, do you change as you get older? So do you change as you get older? And in my opinion, in my point of view, yes, you do. You do see things very differently to how you saw them when you were as a kid, because as a kid, everything, especially when you're developing from being a baby to a toddler and a toddler to a child, you're sort of you're getting introduced to the world, and you become aware of the world, and everything is brand new, and some things are daunting, and some things are, you are very much, as a kid, while I was happy-go-lucky, and then when I started nursery and became aware, because I love playgroup was I loved, and I looked forward to it each day, and I didn't feel like the day was a struggle. I just loved it because it was like I played all day. There was like a little wedding dress outfit I loved to wear every day, and I did, and I got upset when other kids used it, but you need that in order to learn how to share, because you do become very like because I'm a girl but when I was a kid especially, where I liked to wear the same thing, same costume, I play with the same toys, and when I didn't and somebody else had them on, I felt like they took them away from me. But it's not, because it's basically it's an environment where you learn to get on, and you learn to share, and that is important when it comes to child development, is sharing, because even if they're an only child, it's still very important, because sharing is how we become givers as well as takers in this world. And it is important that you teach kids about sharing, and about forming good relationships by being kind, and not being afraid to show your emotions when you're annoyed with someone, but at the same time learn how to get along with other people, because I do think that is a must when it comes to child development. Having a son of mine now, you do see things differently when you become a parent. I certainly did, compared to when I wasn't a parent. I mean, I did look after other people's children. I did it for years, and it just was something that was natural to me. When I started working at nursery, I was in a very bad place, and I did it because I didn't want to go back to a 9-to-5 job. I wanted to do something different. So, and I wanted to work with children because I wanted to. It was so I could help kids who may have issues about separation, anxiety, and just basically, looking after kids how I wish I'd been looked after, or how I was looked after. It was very rare that I had bad teachers. Looking back, I mean, there was a few, but not a lot. But being somebody who found it hard sometimes to trust people, the one thing that is a must when it comes to looking after kids is that you've got to let them see that you are safe. You're never going to hurt them. You're always going to look after them. Now, I did make mistakes, and that's part of the job, but my outlook was that I was looking after their well-being as well as looking after them, like changing their nappy and helping them when they need to go to the toilet and that sort of thing, and making sure that they play happily, and if they do get a little bit upset, I'm there to give them a cuddle, and reassurance, because that's what a lot of kids look for when they're growing up, and I was exactly the same. And you do change your view on things as you get older. You see things as a whole again. As a kid, you see things as a whole, and then when you get older you see it as a whole, but you also see the cracks more, you know, in society, and where the problems lie that can affect other people and yourself from, you know, living. You know, I've come to see that people, I was in the mindset at one point that people were never born to be bad, but now looking at it now here, I see that there are people that are just born to do wrong in the world, you know. And I think it's because it teaches us, even though we don't want them in the world, it kind of makes us see that we're not that bad. Sometimes we can be our own haters and our own critics, you know. And then when you see people who just purposely want to cause harm, you realise that actually I'm not that bad, you know. I may not look like, you know, a model. I may not look like, you know, Kylie Minogue. You know, I never, you know, I never look like Joan Collins. But at the end of the day, you know, you are your own person, and when you get older, you do tend to see things in a wiser what's the word? What's the word? Oh my God. Is there? I can't say. Mentality. Is there? But then there are just people that just don't grow up. There are people that don't change. They always think that they're losing out, and they always think that they don't want to be, you know, second best. But there's, you know, life isn't a competition. Life is about living. But you do have those who think that life is a game of cards, and it's not. Because a game of cards is fun, but you know, when you put them back in put the cards back in the pack, they are, you know, there for enjoyment, not to you know, hurt somebody or to lash out. And you do get people who just want to lash out, you know, and I'm the kind of person that tries to make sense of it. But now, as I'm doing this video and going and visioning what I've been through, you know, in the last, you know, even since a kid, because it wasn't, you know, life wasn't always a bed of roses, you know. There were things, but my dad got really hurt once and ended up in hospital, and I go into like this thing where I will avoid it for a bit, you know, until I'm ready to face it. And I do that a lot, you know. I will step back, and I will. When my mum and dad first got divorced, for example, I knew it was on the cards. I saw it a long time ago. I'm not saying I'm psychic or clairvoyant, but I do see things, and I know that some people say it's total rubbish. I do, you know. I would say a good reader of life, you know, and the person that my mum's with now, I knew that was going to happen from when I met him at my school, you know. I saw that happening a long time ago. I knew mum and dad would get divorced, but when it actually happened, I was like, right, I need to. Well, I was conscious. It wasn't conscious at all. It was subconscious, where I stepped away from it, and I was working up in London, and it was like a good excuse to, you know, go out a lot and not have to face it, and I didn't. And you know, and when, you know, and I understand, you know, when a breakup happens, it does affect the adults a lot, but you also need to understand that when you do divorce, you also upset it does affect the children, and you've got to give them time to adapt to it, you know, because that's the thing, is adapting to the change. And if you're someone that finds change often daunting, then you do need to give kids that may be involved time to deal with it in their own pace, and I understand that sometimes, if there is a conflict in a relationship, especially when it's on of breakup, you will get the parent that's very angry and will lash out, because he didn't want to let it go, and then there's the one that needed to move on and, made you as a child to feel guilty in respect, because I understand that, there was a lot of tension there, and and I don't see it was anybody's fault as such. It's just that there's a lot of emotions that come into play when there's a family breakup, and you've got to allow, I know that the one adult may be scared for their life, especially if it's like a environment of domestic violence, then the parent sometimes want you to protect them, but what you can understand is that it affects the kids more than when it does you as the adults. And I was very conscious of that with Henry, and even though I was made to feel bad because of that, I don't ever want to be somebody who is with somebody because of the convenience. And at one point I was, and I thought, no, this is wrong, I'm not feeling it anymore, I need to get out. And you do. And I did think about Henry. I didn't want to be that parent who walked out and left my child behind. I was never going to do that. I was never going to walk, even though I was tempted and I was being messed about by other people, not in my family, but other people getting involved at the time. And I was, made to see it. I was made to feel like the bad one in it all, and I wasn't like being nasty to him. It wasn't meant to be in that way. It was just that I knew something else was going on, and I just wanted to find out the truth. That was all it was. I just wanted to know the truth of what was going on, because I had suspicions that things weren't as clean painted as it seemed, and just a few things that happened. I'm not going to go in and out because it is private and I don't want to put it out there, but it's just basically, when a relationship breaks up, other things start to arise and grow on the surface that you didn't know was there before, and that's why, when it comes to a breakup, you do need to have that time to adapt to it. And I think when you go through experiences in your life as you get older, again, that changes your perception on things, when you are in time of trouble, that's when your real friends and family are. You get to see where people are pretending to be your friends but don't have your back like you thought they did, and it can be a hard thing to face when you have those moments, but I see it as that's what's made me be what I am now. But I'm helping people who've experienced, self-confidence issues, mental health, been victims of abuse or bullying, because I was definitely bullied, as a from a young age, and so it's something that I want to do to help other people, because it can affect your growing up, it can affect your trust in other people, it can be ongoing, because people think because you're nice and are a genuine person that is an excuse to attack you, and I'm just standing up to the fact that it's not acceptable, and people who do it need to be put in their place and need to be knocked down a level, because they think that it is high and mighty, and it kind of like makes them the rulers of the world, when it's not. This country is ruled by people who are honest. You do get the odd idiot, but they always come to the surface in the end, like a Hitler, he was very vindictive. He lashed out, because I see him as an angry person who wanted to use his anger and he caused a war, for heaven's sake. I mean, he did. and they say that one man can't rule all, but he tried, and he almost succeeded, you know. But you know, I do think that you find that when bad things happen, that a lot of good people rise to the surface and stand up to people like that, because it's them that help make the world go round and keep people alive that end up being caught in the middle of it that shouldn't be, you know. And I see that kind of sums up sometimes life, where someone's gained your trust, and then as soon as your back's turned, they've demolished you and they've tried to take down your good work for their own selfish attitudes and their own selfish needs, you know. We have to share this world with people, and that's the thing. You do see the world in a different way when you are a young child, when you are a teenager, but I find that as a kid, and then when you get to kind of like my age in 40s, you see it again as you did then, still with more knowledge in one respect, as a whole again, but you see the cracks more than when you did when you were a kid. But then also, you know, there's perception that kids don't know any better, and that was the attitude at one point. Let me tell you, from a child who had strong emotions from early age, we feel it, you know, we know what's going on, we're not stupid. We're all aware when, you know, there's a bad apple, you know, and the wrong type of people around us, you know. And it can make or break you, you know. It can make you see that, you know, people will think that the earth is theirs to take and not for anybody else, you know. And it's just, you know, your perception is, again, as a kid, as a whole. But as a kid, when you're a child, you're learning about the world from the beginning. Whereas when you get to this age that I'm at now, I see that I'm still learning, but I do see I have seen more now than when I was as a kid, even though I was aware of the things around me that were bad. But you know, and you also find that you also find that, you know, a lot of people think, you know, when you watch like programs like The X Factor and Britain's Got Talent, you find that people think, oh wow, I wonder if I could do that, and does that mean that I don't have to do the hard work, you know, to get on there? Yes, you do still have to do the hard work when it gets on there, because if you just stood up there and smiled and said, I'm a good person, you know, I just want to show the world that I'm good, that's not really showing you, it's just words. But you know, they are platforms for people who may have done 6 or 7 auditions before then, to see that, you know, if you've had a dream, you can have it, but obviously they have to go through a process to get there. And it doesn't, I think people have a wrong perception of it, because they think they've sent in their application, the person who's got that application, seen their name, seen what they're going to do, and said, right, we'll have that person on. Which in kind of way it does, but don't forget they've probably got about 15,000 applicants, you know, coming through, and they have to narrow it down first on that first application, you know. They have to, because they can't have everybody on that show on TV, because then it will be going on for a year, you know. So they have to narrow it down to say, say 15,000 people applied, and there's space for, say, 100 of those 15,000 people. Now they have to narrow it down to how many they can have in that one series. to take them through to the audition, because a lot of the time they will do a selection process when you're first there. So they may say that they may have like 15,000 people, and they know that they've got to narrow it down to 100 people. So they will look through and they will probably pick about, for example, 500 people, and then those 500 people will turn up, and then they will have to go through a selection process for them to narrow it down even more. And that's how they do it. It's not like you send in the application form and they're right, okay, we've got 15,000 people applying, right, we need to get them 15,000 people in to audition. It's not like that at all. It doesn't work that way. That's why it often takes a long time for shows to be recorded and then put on the telly, because of the length of time they have spent selecting people to be on that show. And then obviously then you've seen it where they then select the applicants to audition to be in the finals, because they've got through the first part now, so the auditions on the telly. And that's how it works. It's not like, somebody juggling to what an applicant sends in their application. I can juggle. I've been juggling for a month, and I want to, because that can happen. You can find things in a short space of time, which then become your long life career. I mean, with blog writing and doing this, I didn't know anything about this kind of world, YouTube, until I worked at a contact centre, Sitel, where I discovered YouTube and discovered blog writing and discovered creating online courses and all that. I was very new to it, and I was in my 30s when that started. I wasn't in my 20s. I've been writing since I was a kid, music and books, but I wasn't aware that they'd been a success. They were just stories that I wrote, and I didn't think they would become anything really. But and now here I am at 42, and I haven't had it all, plain sailing. It's taken a long time. I never thought I'd ever do stand-up, but I did it at Butlins, and it just happened because I would go to a venue called Jack's there, and it was like I loved it, and that's the one thing I always wanted to do, because I used to go to Clacton as a kid with my grandparents and my parents, and I loved those holidays as well as going to Menorca. But I always knew I wanted to work at a holiday camp, and because I fell in love with the rugby world, because like that I didn't get introduced to the rugby league world until I was about 14, and it was through a friend that I met at school, and she knew I liked sport, and so she asked me if I would like to come along, and I did, and it did. It was like a whole new world opened up, and I was like, wow, I love it, and I did, and I put off doing the things like working at a holiday camp off for a long time, and then it was around about 2000, and I applied in 2001, but because there was foot and mouth going around, I didn't get employed. So I tried a year later, and I did. And I started on the 21st of May 2002 at Butlins, Bognor Regis, and I was working in the residential catering department, and then I found myself working in other departments. I would, be one of the staff dancing on the Jack stage, and there's a few hazy moments because I would often be pissed, but I would, be there, and not even realising that people were watching me, because when I enjoy myself, and it was like a working holiday, and it took me a while. It took me, I'd say, a fortnight or so, or about a month, to really find my feet there, because that's a whole different world. It's unexplainable if you haven't done it, but it is a totally different environment. But then when I really got into it, I enjoyed it and I loved it, and I wasn't just working in the residential catering department, I was working in Jack's, and where, and I didn't know they would pass me bits of paper to read out on stage, and some of it is very hazy, but I do remember partly of it. And then I would sometimes, even if you worked in the restaurant, I would also help with the cleaning department and housekeeping, and with cleaning glasses, and and this was something I wanted to do, so I done it, and I see things now that I'm now 42, where I am working for myself. I'm earning my own money again, even though that's been challenged, but I'm protecting it. I am with someone new, and that's been challenged, but they can challenge it. It's the truth. I don't say it just for the sake of it, in the words. It is true, and if they don't want to believe me, then that's up to them. I'm not here to change their mind. I'm here to live and be happy, and I am in a happy place. In a minute, I'm not really happy with the environment, because I do want to move on from here now, and move back into London, more be back into where I love, British Chelsea, central London. That's what I love. It was where I spent most of my childhood, and I find that you do. One thing I have learnt from from my parents, is that you do always end up going back home, and I'm ready to do that again. But I would like to go back and work in Clacton holiday camp now, so that's been set up for me, so I can do that. So hopefully that happens. I'm going to be working in one of my favourite things as a kid, as well as doing stand-up. I'm going to be involved in music again, so I'm really looking forward to that. But you do see things differently as an adult from a child, but you still see things as a whole again. But you're a lot more wiser and knowledgeable. But with everything, I do think you're always learning in life. You are, and you learned other way of coping. If you have suffered with low self-esteem, bullying, or any type of abuse, it does make you. Some people have taken their own lives, and it's terrible. And last year, I was not like this. Now I was a complete mess. I was in a state that I would never ever want to be in again, and I don't care how many times somebody wants to demolish, I'm not going back there again, because I'm not going to allow it. I do see that I'm worth, more than those that want to abuse and bully, so, it's made me see that, that sometimes things do take time. Because I was in my mindset, everything that was some things happen overnight, but it's not. There is always a long process, and it's taken a long time to get here. But I'm glad I'm here. And I do see my work differently from when I started it. I think I don't give myself enough credit sometimes, and I see the wrong in myself as well. And I'm learning to not do that, because that's from other people that's put that in my head, and I don't want bad people to take control anymore. They've had enough control, and now I will always do my own thing, and I'm not going to apologise for that, and I'm not going to feel like I'm not saying I'm perfect. I've made mistakes, but as part of growing. And that's the other thing, you see that I'm at a place now where I'm very flexible and easygoing, and I have been before, because I'm not overly strict with Henry. I like the fact that I want him to enjoy being a kid, that's important to me, and I want him to enjoy the things that he loves at the minute, because it does change, and I just want him to enjoy his childhood. I don't want to be saying, oh, don't do this, don't do that. I more want to teach him that this is how this is what you do, and also being open, and also see that with kids like myself, sometimes when we lashed out, it wasn't because we wanted to be aggressive, it's because we're trying to communicate that we're getting anxious about something, you know, and that's often that's often what's the word? It's kind of all I'm saying is like, observe your kids a lot better, because a lot more, because you'll find that when they lash out, it's not because they want to be naughty, it's because they're trying to communicate that they're unhappy about something, and something is really bothering them and making them fearful, you know. And you know, I think I am more outspoken now than I was as a kid, you know, because I was often ready to feel, and I should be quiet rather than being heard. And yeah, so you do change your mind. In my opinion, you do anyway. Well, I have. So yeah. Anyway, I hope thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.